I was halfway through my third chemotherapy session when my phone buzzed. Dad's name flashed on the screen. My nurse Sarah gave me a sympathetic look as I answered. Your brother Tyler needs $63,000 for emergency surgery, Dad announced without greeting. We need the money today. The IV drip continued its steady rhythm into my arm. I stared at the clear poison flowing into my veins, meant to save my life, while Dad waited for an answer I couldn't give. The cold metal chair beneath me had become too familiar over these past 6 months. Each treatment session at Riverside Medical Center lasted 4 hours, sometimes longer, if complications arose. Today marked my 6th round of chemotherapy, the halfway point in my battle against stage 2 breast cancer. I'd kept this diagnosis secret from my family, knowing exactly how they would react. Not with support or comfort, but with accusations that I was being dramatic, seeking attention, or worse, trying to compete with Tyler's latest crisis. My name is Margot, and at 32 years old, I'd spent my entire life in the shadow of my younger brother. Tyler was 29 now, though you'd never guess it from his behavior. While I'd worked 2 jobs to put myself through college, earning my teaching degree, and landing a position at Franklin Elementary School, Tyler had drifted from one failed venture to another. Each collapse was cushioned by Dad's wallet and Mom's endless excuses. Growing up in our modest 2-story house in Columbus, Ohio, the divide was clear from the beginning. Tyler's trophies lined the mantel while my straight-A report cards ended up in drawers. When I won the state spelling bee in 5th grade, Dad missed it for Tyler's little league game where he sat on the bench. When Tyler wrecked his first car at 17, driving drunk with his friends, Dad bought him a newer model. When I graduated, summa cum laude from Ohio State, my parents arrived late and left early, rushing to bail Tyler out of his latest predicament. The pattern never changed, only grew more expensive. Tyler's failed restaurant venture cost Dad $40,000. His brief stint as a day trader lost another $20,000. The motorcycle shop that lasted exactly 3 months drained their retirement savings. Each failure was met with the same refrain: Tyler just needs to find his path. He's special, you know. Not everyone can follow the rules like you, Margot. Following the rules. That's what I was good for. The responsible daughter who never caused trouble, never asked for help, never demanded attention. Even when the lumps appeared, when the biopsies came back positive, when Dr. Martinez sat me down with sympathetic eyes and life-altering words, I handled it alone. My insurance covered the basics, but deductibles, copays, and experimental treatments recommended by my oncologist had already consumed my savings account, my emergency fund, and the small inheritance from Grandma Rose that I'd hidden from my family for exactly this kind of situation. Margot, are you listening? Dad's voice cut through my thoughts, sharp with impatience. Tyler needs this surgery immediately. He was in an accident. What kind of accident? I managed to ask when watching Sarah adjust the IV flow. She'd become more than a nurse over these months, witnessing my quiet battles, both medical and emotional. Motorcycle racing. Some underground thing, but that doesn't matter now. His spine is damaged. The doctors say without surgery he might not walk properly again. $63,000, Margot. I know you have savings. You've always been good with money. Underground racing, of course. Tyler's need for adrenaline and admiration had escalated over the years. Legal thrills weren't enough anymore. I thought of my depleted bank account, the credit cards I'd maxed out for treatment, the second mortgage I'd taken on my small condo to cover the clinical trial Dr. Martinez had recommended. Dad, I can't help with that amount. I don't have it. Silence stretched between us, the kind that preceded his explosive temper. I'd learned to recognize it as a child, the calm before accusations and guilt trips designed to make me comply. Can't or won't. His voice dropped to that dangerous whisper I remembered from childhood. Your brother is lying in a hospital bed, possibly paralyzed, and you're telling me you won't help after everything we've done for you. Everything they'd done for me. I almost laughed at the irony. The birthday parties, they forgot the graduation, they barely attended the countless times they'd borrowed money for Tyler, and conveniently forgotten to repay it. But what hurt most was their complete absence when I'd casually mentioned feeling tired lately, hoping someone might notice I'd lost 20 pounds, that my hands shook, that I wore scarves even in summer to hide the port in my chest. Dad, I'm telling you, I don't have $63,000. I'm sorry about Tyler, but I genuinely cannot help with this. You're lying. The accusation came swift and sharp. You've always been jealous of your brother, always competing, always trying to make him look bad with your perfect little life. Well, congratulations, Margot. You win. You get to keep your precious money while your brother suffers. Sarah's eyes widened at the venom in his voice, audible even through the phone. She reached over and gently squeezed my free hand, a gesture of support that meant more than she could know. That's not fair, Dad. You know that's not true. Isn't it? Then prove it. Help your family when we need you. Or are you really so selfish that you'd let your brother be paralyzed over money? The word selfish hit me like a physical blow. Selfish. Me who had loaned them $15,000 over the years for Tyler's emergencies, never seeing a penny back. Me who spent every holiday cooking and cleaning while Tyler showed up late or not at all. Me who was fighting for my life in secret because adding my problems to the family dynamic would only result in being called an attention seeker. I'm not lying about the money, Dad. I swear to you, I don't have it. Cancer. He spit the word out like it tasted bitter. That's what you're going to claim, isn't it? Just like your Aunt Patricia. Every time we needed something, she suddenly had some medical crisis. Thyroid, lupus, fibromyalgia, whatever got her out of family responsibilities. Is that your game, Margot? Pretending to be sick when your family needs you? The chemotherapy drugs made my vision blur, or maybe it was tears. Aunt Patricia had died 3 years ago from complications of lupus, but in Dad's version of history, she was just a hypochondriac who'd inconvenienced everyone. I thought of the ports and needles, the vomiting and hair loss, the nights spent wondering if I'd see another birthday, and realized with crystal clarity that even if I showed him my medical records, the scars, the bills, he'd find a way to make it about Tyler. You're a disappointment, Margot. A selfish, jealous disappointment. When Tyler can't walk when he's stuck in a wheelchair because his sister valued money over family, I hope you can live with yourself. I hope that money keeps you warm at night when you have no family left. The line went dead. He'd hung up on me, but not before delivering his final verdict. I sat there, poison dripping into my veins, tears streaming down my face, while Sarah silently handed me tissues. The other patients in the chemotherapy suite politely pretended not to notice my breakdown, each fighting their own battles against mortality and probably dealing with their own family dramas. Honey, Sarah said softly, breaking protocol to sit on the edge of my chair. I don't know your whole story, but I've been your nurse for 6 months. I've seen you come here alone every time, never complaining, never asking for special treatment. I've watched you grade papers between treatments, worry about your students, even when you're nauseated. Whatever that man said to you, whatever he accused you of, I want you to know that you're one of the strongest, least selfish people I've ever met. Her kindness broke the dam I'd built around my emotions. I sobbed while she held me, careful not to disturb the IV line, while poison designed to save my life continued its steady drip. When the tears finally stopped, she helped me clean my face and brought me a cup of ginger tea. Is there anyone I can call for you? A friend, maybe? I thought of Grace Chen, my best friend since college, and now a social worker at this very hospital. She'd offered countless times to sit with me during treatments, but I'd always refused, not wanting to burden her. Pride, stubbornness, or maybe just the ingrained pattern of handling everything alone. Actually, yes. Could you see if Grace from Social Services is available? Tell her Margot finally needs her help. Sarah smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen in that horrible hour. Of course. And Margot, that money he thinks you're hiding, Even if you had millions, you wouldn't owe someone who speaks to you that way a single penny. Family shouldn't come with a price tag. As she left to find Grace, I leaned back in the chair and closed my eyes. The IV continued its work, each drop of medicine a small act of hope, a tiny rebellion against death. I'd chosen to fight for my life, depleting every resource I had in the process. If that made me selfish in my father's eyes, so be it. For the first time in 32 years, I was choosing myself, and despite the pain, the fear, and the loneliness, it felt like the first honest thing I'd ever done. 2 hours had passed since Dad's call. The chemotherapy bag was nearly empty, and Grace sat beside me, having arrived within minutes of Sarah's summons. She'd listened to the whole story without interruption, her expression cycling through shock, anger, and protective fury on my behalf. Grace had the kind of face that revealed every emotion, with expressive dark eyes and animated features that made her excellent at connecting with patients, but terrible at poker. "I can't believe he actually accused you of faking cancer," she said, for the third time, still processing the cruelty. "Does he know you've been coming here? Have they seen any bills, noticed you've lost weight? Anything?" "I've hidden it well," I admitted, watching the last drops of chemotherapy enter my port. "Lost the weight, gradually wore wigs before my hair fell out, completely scheduled treatments during work hours, so they'd never know. The bills go to my condo, and I handle all my own finances. It wasn't hard to keep it secret when they barely noticed me anyway." Grace was formulating a response when my phone rang again. Dad's number appeared on the screen and my stomach clenched. Grace grabbed my hand, offering silent support as I reluctantly answered. "Mugget." The voice was different this time, broken and tearful instead of angry. "Oh God, Margot, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "But Dad..." I couldn't reconcile this sobbing voice with the man who'd verbally eviscerated me 2 hours ago. "The hospital called. Your hospital. They called about your outstanding balance. Something about payment plans and charity care applications. You have breast cancer. You've been in treatment for 6 months. Oh God, what have I done?" So, the billing department had inadvertently revealed what I'd hidden so carefully. Part of me felt relieved that the truth was out, while another part dreaded the performance of concern that would surely follow. But before I could respond, another voice came on the line. "Margot, it's Mom." I nearly dropped the phone. Martha Williams hadn't spoken directly to me in 2 years, not since I'd refused to co-sign a loan for Tyler's motorcycle shop. She communicated through Dad, or not at all punishment for my lack of family loyalty. "Hi, Mom." I managed my voice smaller than I intended. I knew. The admission came quick and quiet, like she was afraid someone would stop her. "I've known about your cancer for 3 months. Linda Morrison saw you at the cancer center and told me. I wanted to call, wanted to come see you, but your father... He said if you wanted us to know, you would have told us." Grace's eyes widened, and she pulled out her phone, subtly starting a recording app. As a social worker, she'd learned to document everything, especially family dynamics that bordered on abuse. "You knew!" The betrayal felt fresh and sharp, different from Dad's cruelty, but equally painful. "You knew I was going through this alone, and you didn't even call." "I did more than not call." Mom's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Those deposits in your account, the anonymous ones, $500 on the 15th of each month. That was me. I opened a separate account your father doesn't know about, saved money from grocery shopping, returned things he bought for Tyler, and kept the cash. I knew you'd need help, but I couldn't do it openly." My mind raced backward through the past 3 months. Those mysterious deposits had been a lifeline, allowing me to keep my electricity on, buy groceries, make minimum credit card payments when everything else went to medical bills. I'd assumed it was some kind of bank error in my favor and hadn't questioned the universe's small kindness. "Mom, I don't understand. Why couldn't you help me openly? Why all the secrecy?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "You think your father's control stops at Tyler. Every penny I spend is monitored, every transaction questioned. When I bought a new coat last winter, he made me return it because Tyler needed brake work on his motorcycle. When I tried to send you birthday money last year, he found out and moved it to Tyler's account. Instead, said you didn't need it with your teacher salary. Grace leaned forward, professional interest, mixing with personal concern. She dealt with financial abuse cases regularly, but this was hitting close to home. Mom, that's financial abuse. You know that, right? Controlling your access to money, monitoring your spending, preventing you from helping your own daughter, that's abuse. I know what it is, Mom said quietly. I've known for years. But knowing and doing something about it are different things. I'm 61 years old, haven't worked since Tyler was born, have no credit in my own name. Where would I go? How would I live? At least this way I could help you a little. Is Dad there now? I asked, worried he might overhear this conversation. He's in the hospital bathroom crying like I've never seen. The billing person who called was very detailed. They mentioned chemotherapy surgery consultations, port placement. He knows exactly how sick you are and how much you've been dealing with alone. I think it's the first time he's had to face what kind of father he really is. And Tyler, how is he really? There was a pause. Then Mom's voice turned even more bitter. Your brother is fine. Well, not fine, but not dying. He does need surgery on his back, but it's scheduled through his workers' compensation claim. The racing story was a lie. He hurt himself at the construction site where he's been working, lifted something wrong. The surgery is covered, but your father saw an opportunity. The final piece clicked into place. He was going to pocket the money. $48,000 of it. Keep 15 for Tyler's deductibles and pocket the rest. He said it was for retirement to make up for all the money spent on Tyler's failed businesses. I heard him on the phone with Tyler this morning coaching him on what to say to you. Grace couldn't contain herself anymore. Mrs. Williams, this is Grace Chen Margot's friend. I'm a social worker here at the hospital. What you're describing is serious financial abuse and fraud. There are resources available, safe ways to leave programs to help you start over. I appreciate that, dear, but I can't think about myself right now. My daughter has cancer and I've been depositing money like a coward instead of holding her hand through chemotherapy. What kind of mother does that make me? A trapped one, I said, surprising myself with the lack of anger in my voice. A scared one, but still one who found a way to help when I needed it most. That money kept me going, Mom. It meant everything. I heard muffled voices and shuffling sounds. He's coming back. I have to go. But Margot, there's something else you need to know. Your grandmother's will, there was more to it than the small inheritance you received. Call Harold Hutchinson, her lawyer. Your father has been intercepting mail, but there's something important you need to know. I love you, sweetheart. I'm so proud of how strong you've been. The line went dead, leaving Grace and me in stunned silence. Sarah returned to remove my IV, pretending she hadn't been hovering nearby, listening to every word. The chemotherapy suite had become an unexpected stage for family drama, but the nurses had seen it all before. Wells, Grace said, closing her recording app, that was illuminating. Financial abuse fraud, conspiracy mail tampering, and apparently hidden inheritance issues. Your family makes my dysfunctional relatives look like the Brady Bunch. I don't know how to process any of this, I admitted gingerly, standing up as Sarah bandaged my port site. My mom has been secretly helping me while being abused herself. My dad tried to steal $63,000 using my brother's injury as cover. And apparently, there's something about Grandma's will I don't know. One thing at a time, Grace said, shifting into professional mode. First, we get you home and resting. Tomorrow, when you're feeling better, we call this lawyer. I'll come with you if you want. And, Margot, we need to document everything. The calls, the financial abuse admission, the fraud attempt. This isn't just family drama anymore, it's criminal behavior. As we left the cancer center, I felt strangely lighter, despite the toxic chemicals coursing through my system. The secret was out messier and more complicated than I'd imagined, but out nonetheless. Mom knew and had been fighting for me in the only way she could. Dad's cruelty had been exposed by his own greed. And somewhere in Columbus, there was a lawyer holding information about Grandma that Dad had tried to hide. The battle wasn't over, not with the cancer and certainly not with my family. But for the first time in 6 months, I wasn't fighting alone. Grace drove me home while I dozed in the passenger seat, exhausted from treatment and revelation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, phone calls to lawyers, and difficult decisions about how to handle Dad's fraud attempt. But tonight, I would rest knowing that even in the darkest moments, love could find a way. $500 at a time deposited by a mother who risked her own safety to help her daughter survive. It wasn't the support I dreamed of, the Hallmark movie moment of family rallying around a cancer patient, but it was real, complicated, and ultimately more meaningful because of what it had cost her to give it. As Grace helped me into my apartment, I made a mental note to call Harold Hutchinson first thing in the morning. Whatever Grandma had left, whatever Dad had hidden, it was time to claim what was mine. The responsible daughter was done following rules that only served those who made them. It was time to fight back. The next morning arrived with the usual post-chemotherapy symphony: nausea, exhaustion, and a metallic taste that no amount of ginger candy could eliminate. Grace had stayed the night sleeping on my couch despite my protests, and was already brewing coffee when my phone rang at 7:30. Tyler's name on the screen made my stomach clench in a way that had nothing to do with chemotherapy side effects. "Before you hang up," Tyler started immediately. "I didn't know. About the cancer, I mean. Dad just told me, and I swear on everything holy Margot, I had no idea you were sick." His voice sounded genuinely shaken, lacking the usual casual arrogance I'd grown accustomed to over the years. I put the phone on speaker so Grace could hear, settling into my kitchen chair with a cup of peppermint tea. "What exactly did Dad tell you?" "That you have breast cancer, been in treatment for months, spent all your money on medical bills. Is it true? Are you really that sick?" "Oh, stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma." I confirmed, the medical terms are rolling off my tongue with practiced ease. 6 months of treatment so far, another 6 to go if everything goes according to plan. Silence stretched between us, and when Tyler spoke again, his voice was thick with emotion. "Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell me?" The question might have made me laugh if I wasn't so tired. When would I have told you, Tyler? During one of our non-existent conversations, at the family dinners I'm not invited to anymore, or maybe I should have interrupted one of your crisis calls asking for money. "That's fair," he admitted, surprising me with his acceptance. "I've been a terrible brother, but Margot, there's something you need to know about yesterday. The whole thing, it wasn't what Dad told you." Grace leaned forward, both of us sensing another revelation approaching. Tyler continued, his words tumbling out like a confession. "The surgery, I do need it, but it's $15,000, not $63. And it's already covered by workers' comp because I got hurt on the construction site not racing. Dad came up with the whole story. He said you had money saved, said you'd been selfish with the family, keeping it all for yourself while we struggled. I didn't want to lie to you, but he said if I didn't, he'd kick me out. I've been living with them since the motorcycle shop failed, have nowhere else to go." So Dad was planning to pocket $48,000. I stated, confirming what Mom had revealed. "More than that." Tyler's voice dropped lower. "He's been stealing from Mom's inheritance for years. Grandma Rose left her $150,000, but Dad's been siphoning it off, forging her signature on withdrawals. Mom doesn't even know how much is left. He keeps the statements hidden, tells her it's invested and can't be touched." My hands shook as I set down the teacup. Grace was already taking notes, her social worker instincts fully engaged. The scope of Dad's deception kept expanding like a malignant tumor, affecting everyone it touched. "Tyler, why are you telling me this now?" "Because when I found out you have cancer, really understood what you've been going through alone. Something in me just broke. All these years, Dad painted you as the selfish one, the one who thought she was better than us. But you were just trying to survive, weren't you? And we made it harder every step of the way. I need to tell you something else. Tyler continued, his voice urgent. There's something about Grandma's will that Dad doesn't want you to know. A life insurance policy. He tried to claim it after she died, but the insurance company said he wasn't the beneficiary anymore. Grandma changed it the year before she died, made you the sole beneficiary. It's worth $250,000, Margot. Dad's been intercepting letters from the lawyer. Even went to the office, pretending to be your representative, saying you were mentally unstable and he needed to handle your affairs. The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of the table while Grace steadied me with a hand on my shoulder. $250,000. Money that could have paid for my treatment, prevented the second mortgage, eliminated the crushing debt that kept me awake at night. How do you know all this? I managed to ask. I was with him last month when he went to the lawyer's office. Harold Hutchinson, Grandma's attorney. Dad made me wait in the car, but I could see through the window. The lawyer kept shaking his head, pointing at documents, looking frustrated. When Dad came out, he was furious, said the lawyer was being difficult about technicalities. But Margot, I think Mr. Hutchinson has been trying to protect your interests. You need to call him. Grace was already looking up the number on her phone, her efficiency a stark contrast to my shocked paralysis. The revelations kept coming like waves, each one threatening to drown me in their implications. Tyler, I need to know. What else has Dad done? What other lies has he told? A heavy sigh came through the phone. Where do I even start? He's remortgaged the house 3 times without telling Mom, forging her signature each time. He emptied my college fund when I was 18, told me the market crashed and we lost it all. That's why I never went to college, Margot. Not because I was lazy or stupid like he told everyone, but because the money was gone, and he made me believe it was my fault for not being smart enough to get scholarships like you. Oh, Tyler. I breathed, feeling an unexpected wave of sympathy for my brother. He'd been a victim too, just in different ways. There's more, he continued, seeming determined to purge every secret. Remember, when you loaned us $15,000 over the years, he told me you were giving it to spite me, to show how much better you were doing. He said you were rubbing your success in our faces. But really, he was taking that money and gambling with it. Online poker, sports betting, even cryptocurrency. He lost it all but told Mom it went to my business ventures. That's why she resents you, Margot. She thinks you gave money to make me fail. Grace's note-taking had turned frantic, capturing every detail of financial abuse and fraud. My family wasn't just dysfunctional. It was built on a foundation of lies, manipulation, and theft, with Dad as the architect of everyone's misery. I'm getting ready to call the lawyer now, I told Tyler. What are you going to do? If you tell Dad we talked, things could get bad for you. I'm already looking for somewhere else to live. My foreman at the construction site says I can rent a room from him once I'm healed up from surgery. And Margot, I want to make things right. I know I can't undo years of being a spoiled, enabled mess, but I want to try. Maybe start by actually paying you back some of that money once I'm working again. Let's focus on getting you healthy first, I said, meaning it. And Tyler, thank you for telling me the truth. It couldn't have been easy. It was the least I could do. You're fighting cancer while I'm crying about a back injury that's already covered by insurance. Perspective is a hell of a thing. Call the lawyer, Margot. Get what Grandma wanted you to have. And if you need someone to testify about Dad's fraud, I'll do it. I'm done being his accomplice. After we hung up, Grace immediately dialed Harold Hutchinson's office. It was early, but she left a detailed voicemail explaining who I was and the urgency of the situation. While we waited for a call back, she helped me document everything Tyler had revealed, creating a timeline of Dad's financial crimes that spanned over a decade. This is extensive fraud, Grace said, reviewing her notes. Mail, tampering, identity theft, forgery. embezzlement of inheritance, funds, insurance fraud. Your father isn't just a bad parent, Margot. He's a criminal who's been using his family as victims for years. The lawyer called back within an hour, his voice warm but professional. Miss Williams, I've been trying to reach you for 18 months. Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes, and I'm relieved to finally speak with you directly. Can you come to my office today? There are documents you need to see and sign. I'm recovering from chemotherapy, I explained. Would it be possible for you to come to me? I can have a friend present as a witness. Of course. Your grandmother spoke of your responsible nature often. She'd be heartbroken to know about your illness, but proud of your strength. I can be there by noon if that works for you. As we ended the call, I leaned back in my chair, overwhelmed by the morning's revelations. In less than 24 hours, my family's carefully constructed facade had crumbled, revealing a network of lies, abuse, and crime that went deeper than I'd ever imagined. But amid the wreckage, unexpected allies had emerged. Mom with her secret support, Tyler with his confession and promise to change, and soon the fulfillment of Grandma's final wish to protect me. Grace squeezed my hand. Her presence a steady anchor in the storm. You know what this means, right? With that life insurance money, you can pay off all your medical debt, finish treatment without financial stress, maybe even take time off work to fully recover. Grandma knew what she was doing when she changed that beneficiary. I thought of Grandma Rose, fierce and independent until the end, who'd seen through Dad's manipulations when the rest of us were still blind. She'd tried to protect me from beyond the grave, ensuring I'd have resources when I needed them most. It wasn't just money she'd left me, it was freedom from the financial chains Dad had wrapped around all of us. We're going to get through this, Grace said firmly. The lawyer visit, the insurance claim dealing with your father's crimes, all of it. You're not alone anymore, Margot. You have your mother secretly supporting you, your brother finally seeing the truth, and friends who won't let you face this by yourself. And soon you'll have the resources to fight both the cancer and your father's control. As I prepared for the lawyer's visit, I felt a shift in the narrative of my life. No longer was I the forgotten daughter, the responsible one who suffered in silence while others took center stage. I was becoming the protagonist of my own story, armed with truth, supported by unexpected allies, and funded by a grandmother's foresight. The fight ahead would be difficult, but for the first time, I had more than just determination. I had evidence, witnesses, and soon the financial means to pursue justice. The chemotherapy might be poisoning my body to save it, but the truth was doing the same to my family's disease dynamics. Sometimes healing required destruction, first tearing down what was toxic to make room for something healthier. As noon approached, I dressed carefully, preparing to meet the man who held the key to Grandma's final gift. The responsible daughter was about to become something far more powerful, a survivor with resources and nothing left to lose. Harold Hutchinson arrived at my apartment precisely at noon, carrying a leather briefcase that had seen better days and wearing a suit that marked him as old-school professional. He was younger than I'd expected, perhaps early 40s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, and an air of quiet determination that suggested Dad had met his match in persistence. Grace greeted him at the door while I gathered myself on the couch, still fighting the post-chemotherapy fog that made everything feel slightly surreal. Miss Williams, he said, settling into the chair across from me. I want to first express my condolences about your grandmother and my concern for your current health situation. Rose would have moved heaven and earth to support you through this illness. Thank you. I managed, already emotional at the mention of Grandma. I understand there's been some difficulty with my father regarding her estate. Mr. Hutchinson's professional composure cracked slightly, revealing frustration underneath. That's a diplomatic way of putting it. Your father has made 17 attempts to access the life insurance policy, including 3 instances of attempted identity theft and 2 forged documents claiming power of attorney over your affairs. I've reported each incident to the insurance company and maintained detailed records. He pulled out a thick folder laying documents on my coffee table with practiced efficiency. Your grandmother came to me 2 years before her passing with specific concerns about your father's financial behavior. She'd discovered he'd been pressuring her for loans using emotional manipulation about Tyler's needs. She was particularly upset when she learned he'd taken credit cards out in her name. He stole from his own mother. I shouldn't have been surprised, but somehow each new revelation still shocked me. 4 credit cards, totaling $37,000 in debt by the time we discovered them. Rose paid them off to protect her credit, but immediately changed all her beneficiary designations. This life insurance policy, he tapped a document, was specifically structured to be ironclad. She knew your father would try to contest it, so we added multiple verification requirements and a clause that any attempted fraud by other parties would trigger an investigation. Grace was recording again, with Mr. Hutchinson's permission, creating a legal record of everything. The lawyer continued laying out documents, each one revealing more of Grandma's careful planning. The policy is worth $250,000 with accumulated interest, bringing it to approximately $267,000. Your grandmother also left you this letter, which she insisted be delivered only in person. My hands trembled as I took the sealed envelope, recognizing Grandma's spidery handwriting. Inside, her voice seemed to speak directly from the paper. My dearest Margot, if you're reading this, Harold has finally managed to get past your father's interference. I'm sorry it took so long, but I knew you'd eventually need this help. You were always the strong one, the one who carried burdens silently while others complained loudly about nothing. I've watched your father manipulate and steal for years, turning your mother into a shadow and your brother into a mirror of his worst qualities. But you, my dear, you remained untouched by his poison. That's why I'm leaving you this gift, not just the money, but the truth. Your father stole your college fund when you were 16. That scholarship you thought you won, I paid for your education, secretly creating a fake scholarship program through my church. You earned your degree through hard work, but I made sure money wouldn't stop you. He also stole the bonds your other grandparents left you, cashed them when you were 21, told you they were lost in bureaucratic red tape. That was $40,000, meant for your future, gone to cover his gambling debts. But what breaks my heart most is knowing he's made you feel invisible, unworthy of love and support. You are worthy, Margot. You deserve family who celebrates your strength instead of exploiting it. Use this money to build the life you deserve, free from his shadow, and know that I saw you, valued you, and loved you completely. All my love, Grandma Rose. I was sobbing by the time I finished reading, Grace's arms around me, while Mr. Hutchinson quietly organized paperwork. The depth of Dad's betrayal stretched back further than I'd known, but so did the love protecting me. Grandma had been my guardian angel, working secretly to ensure my education, and now my survival. There's more, Mr. Hutchinson said gently once I'd composed myself. Your grandmother also documented your father's financial abuse of your mother. She hired a private investigator the last year of her life, concerned about Martha's situation. Would you like to see those reports? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Mom's number appeared, and her panicked voice filled the room when I answered on speaker. Margot, your father knows you've been in contact with the lawyer. He's heading to your apartment now with Tyler. He's in one of his rages, saying he's going to make you see reason about the insurance money. I tried to stop him, but he pushed me into the wall. I think I need help. Grace immediately called 911 while Mr. Hutchinson began packing up documents. We need to secure these papers, he said urgently. If your father gets his hands on them, he might destroy evidence. Mom, where are you now? I asked, trying to stay calm despite my racing heart. Locked in the bathroom. He doesn't know I'm calling you. Oh, Margot, I'm so scared. I've never seen him this angry. He keeps saying that money is rightfully his, that he'll contest the will, that you're too sick to handle finances. He's been on the phone with some lawyer friend who says he can get you declared incompetent. The doorbell rang, followed immediately by aggressive pounding. Dad's voice boomed through the door. Margot, open up. We need to talk about this insurance nonsense. That money belongs to the family, not just you. Police are on their way, Grace whispered. Both to your mother's house and here. Don't open that door. Tyler's voice joined Dad's, but his tone was different, placating. Dad, calm down. Let's talk to her reasonably. Margot, I'm trying to keep him calm, but you need to let us in before this escalates. I'm calling the police, I announced loudly. Leave now or I'll press charges for harassment. You ungrateful bitch, Dad snarled, his mask completely dropped. After everything I've done for you, you're going to steal your grandmother's money. That insurance was supposed to be for the family, for your mother's security, not for your selfish needs. Everything you've done for me, I found strength in anger. You mean stealing my college fund, cashing my bonds, taking out credit cards in Grandma's name. Which of those loving gestures should I be grateful for? Silence fell outside the door. Then Dad's voice returned, lower and more dangerous. Who told you those lies? That senile old woman. She was losing her mind at the end, making up stories. Whatever that lawyer told you, it's all fabricated to turn you against your family. I have documents, I stated clearly. Bank records, forged signatures, credit card statements. Grandma hired a private investigator. We know everything, Dad. Every theft, every lie, every crime. The pounding resumed, violent enough to shake the doorframe. Grace was on the phone with 911, updating them on the escalation. Mr. Hutchinson stood near me protectively, his own phone ready to document any threats. You want to destroy this family, Dad roared. Fine, but you'll be alone, Margot. No one will stand by you. Your mother will choose me. Tyler will choose me, and you'll die alone with your money. Is that what you want? Actually, Tyler's voice cut through clearly. I'm done choosing you, Dad. I told Margot everything this morning. About the gambling, the stolen money, all of it. I'm done being your accomplice. The sound that came from Dad was barely human. A roar of rage and betrayal. I heard scuffling Tyler's cry of pain and then sirens approaching, multiple sirens from different directions. Police open up, came the authoritative command moments later. I opened the door to find 2 officers restraining Dad while Tyler held a bloody nose. More officers were visible in the hallway, and Grace quickly briefed them on the situation. I want her arrested. Dad spat, struggling against the restraints. She's stolen my mother's insurance money. That lawyer is part of the conspiracy. They're taking advantage of a cancer patient who isn't thinking clearly. One officer, a woman with sergeant stripes, looked at the scene, taking in Mr. Hutchinson's professional presence, the legal documents visible on my coffee table, and my obviously ill appearance. Sir, making false accusations is a crime. Now we've received multiple calls about domestic disturbance, harassment, and possible assault. Would anyone like to make a statement? I would, Tyler said, his voice muffled by the towel he held to his nose. My father assaulted me when I refused to support his attempt to steal my sister's inheritance. He's been committing financial fraud for years, and I'm willing to testify to everything I know. Mr. Hutchinson stepped forward. I'm Harold Hutchinson, attorney for the Rose Williams estate. I have documentation of 17 attempts by this man to fraudulently access insurance benefits designated for Miss Williams. I also have evidence of identity theft, forgery, and mail tampering. The sergeant's expression hardened as she looked at Dad. Sir, you're under arrest for assault, harassment, and suspected fraud. You have the right to remain silent. As they led him away, he turned back one final time, his face twisted with hatred. You've killed this family, Margot. Your mother will never forgive you. Tyler will regret this. You'll have your money, but you'll be alone. No. Mom's voice came from my phone, still on speaker. She won't be alone. I'm done being afraid of you, Robert. Done watching you destroy our children. The police are here and I'm pressing charges for domestic violence. I'm filing for divorce and I'm going to testify about every financial crime you've committed." Tyler sank onto my couch, still holding his nose but looking somehow lighter. "Mom's right. We're done, Dad. Margot's not the one who destroyed this family. You did that all by yourself." The apartment slowly emptied of police, leaving just Grace, Mr. Hutchinson, Tyler, and me. The lawyer, unflappable through the chaos, returned to his paperwork. Well, that was dramatic," he said dryly, "but it doesn't change the legal facts. The insurance money is yours, Miss Williams. I can expedite the release given your medical situation. The funds should be available within 2 weeks." "What about Mom?" I asked Tyler. "Is she really okay?" He nodded, wincing at the movement. "The police took her to the hospital to document her injuries, but she texted that she's more determined than hurt. Apparently, she's been planning to leave him for years, but needed something to push her over the edge. Finding out about your cancer while he tried to steal from you, that was it." I looked around my small apartment, taking in the surreal scene. My father was in police custody. My mother was finally free. My brother was choosing truth over enablement. And I was about to receive enough money to fight my cancer without financial fear. It wasn't the family confrontation I'd imagined in my darker moments, but it was somehow more satisfying. "Ooh, thank you," I told Mr. Hutchinson as he prepared to leave, "for protecting Grandma's wishes, for persisting despite my father's interference, for being here today." He smiled, the first genuine warmth I'd seen from him. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman who loved you fiercely. She'd be proud of how you handled today. And Miss Williams, when you're feeling better, we should discuss the other provisions of her estate. The insurance policy wasn't the only thing she left you." After he left, Grace helped Tyler clean up while I rested on the couch, exhausted by chemotherapy and confrontation. My phone buzzed with messages from Mom updating me on her location and her plans to stay with her sister temporarily. The family I'd known was officially dead, but from its ashes, something new was emerging. Not perfect, not healed, but honest for the first time in decades. So," Tyler said, holding ice to his swollen nose, "what happens now?" "Now," I said, feeling the truth of it settle into my bones, "we learn how to be a real family, one that doesn't require payment for love or silence for survival. It won't be easy, but it has to be better than what we had." He nodded, and for the first time in years, I saw my little brother instead of Dad's puppet. Broken, bruised, but finally free to choose his own path. The price of freedom had been high paid in pain cancer treatments and family explosions. But as Grace made tea and Tyler awkwardly tried to help, I realized some things were worth any cost. Truth, health, and the chance to build something genuine from the wreckage of lies. The insurance money would help me heal my body, but today's confrontation had begun healing something deeper. The invisible daughter had finally been seen, counted, and chosen by the family members who mattered. Dad's arrest was just the beginning of consequences that would ripple through our lives, but for now, we sat together in my small apartment, bound by truth instead of manipulation, choosing each other freely for the first time. 3 days after Dad's arrest, I sat in the conference room of Hartley, Walsh and Associates, surrounded by more legal documents than I'd seen in my entire life. Jennifer Walsh, the attorney Grace had recommended, was a force of nature in her mid-50s, with silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun and eyes that missed nothing. She specialized in financial abuse cases, particularly those involving family dynamics, and had taken my case with an enthusiasm that both comforted and terrified me. "Ida, your father has retained Bernard Kowalski," she informed me, sliding a document across the polished table. "He's filed a petition to contest the insurance payout, claiming undue influence and your mental incompetence due to cancer treatment. It's a desperation move, but we need to take it seriously." I studied the petition, my hands steadier than they'd been in months, despite the chemotherapy session I'd endured yesterday. Dr. Patel had adjusted my treatment schedule to accommodate the legal proceedings, understanding that stress could impact my recovery, but also recognizing that financial security was crucial to my healing. He's claiming I'm mentally incompetent while he's facing criminal fraud charges. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jennifer smiled sharp and predatory. Irony is lost on narcissists, Margot, but this filing tells us something important. He's scared. My investigator has uncovered more than we initially suspected. Your father has been running multiple fraud schemes for over a decade. She opened a thick folder revealing bank statements, forged documents, and a web of financial deception that made my stomach turn. Tyler sat beside me, having insisted on attending to provide support and information. His nose was still bruised from Dad's assault, a purple and yellow reminder of choosing truth over complicity. Let's start with your mother's inheritance, Jennifer continued. Martha's mother left her $150,000 4 years ago. Current balance, $12,000. Your father systematically drained it through forged signatures and unauthorized transfers. He's also remortgaged your childhood home 3 times without Martha's knowledge or consent. How is that even possible? Tyler asked, leaning forward. Don't both parties need to sign for a remortgage? They do, which is why he committed identity theft and forgery. We found 7 different documents with forged signatures, all notarized by the same person, a friend of your father's, who lost his notary license last year for surprise notary fraud. The scope kept expanding like a cancer of its own, touching every aspect of our family's financial life. Jennifer methodically laid out each discovery. Dad had opened credit cards in Mom's name, maxing them out and destroying her credit. He'd claimed me as a dependent on his taxes for the past 3 years, collecting credits and deductions fraudulently. Most shocking, he'd been collecting disability benefits in my name using forged medical documents, claiming I had a mental disability that prevented me from working. This is why your insurance claims were being rejected, Jennifer explained, pointing to a stack of papers. The insurance company's system flagged you as already receiving disability benefits for mental incompetence. Every time you filed a claim for cancer treatment, it conflicted with the false disability status your father had created. I felt rage building in my chest, hot and pure. Every rejected claim, every hour spent on the phone with insurance representatives, every night lying awake wondering how I'd pay for treatment, all of it traced back to Dad's greed. Can we fix this? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. The insurance issues, I mean. I need my treatments covered. Already in progress, Jennifer assured me. I've been in contact with your insurance company's fraud department. They're horrified by what happened and are expediting the review of all your previously denied claims. You should receive reimbursement for every out-of-pocket expense, plus they're waiving all future copays and deductibles as a gesture of apology for their system's failure to catch the fraud. Grace, who'd accompanied me for moral support, squeezed my hand. The relief was overwhelming. Those denied claims had forced me to choose between treatment and basic necessities, had driven me into debt that felt insurmountable. Now, not only would I receive Grandma's insurance money, but I'd be reimbursed for the thousands I'd already spent. There's more, Jennifer said, her tone suggesting we'd only scratched the surface. Tyler, are you prepared to discuss what you know about your father's gambling? Tyler nodded, straightening in his chair. I've been documenting it for the past 2 years, though I didn't realize why at the time. I thought maybe if I showed him how much he was losing, he'd stop. But it was worse than I knew. He pulled out his phone, showing Jennifer screenshots of betting sites, casino apps, and cryptocurrency gambling platforms. Conservative estimate. He's lost over $200,000 in the past 5 years. That's not counting what he lost before I started tracking. The money came from Mom's inheritance, the remortgages, the credit cards, and every loan Margot ever gave us for my supposed businesses. Wait, I interrupted, a horrible thought occurring to me. Tyler, your businesses, the restaurant, the motorcycle shop, were any of them real? Tyler's face crumpled with shame. The motorcycle shop was real for about 3 months. I tried, I really did. But Dad drained the business account, said he was investing in equipment, but really gambling it away. The restaurant never existed. He created fake paperwork, had me talk about it to make it believable, but every penny went to online poker. I found out later, confronted him, and he convinced me it was my fault for not managing the money better. Jennifer had been taking notes throughout, her expression growing more determined with each revelation. This establishes a clear pattern of financial abuse affecting the entire family. Now let's discuss the criminal charges. Your father is currently facing assault charges for attacking Tyler, harassment charges from the incident at Margot's apartment, and domestic violence charges from your mother. The financial crimes will be added once the investigation is complete. How long could he go to prison? I asked, surprised by my lack of guilt at the question. If convicted on all charges, 5 to 7 years, possibly more if federal charges are added for the tax and disability fraud. But Margot, I need you to understand something. Your father will fight this viciously. He'll try to manipulate guilt and gaslight everyone involved. Are you prepared for that? I thought of all the years of silence, of making myself small to avoid his anger, of accepting crumbs while he feasts on stolen plenty. I'm prepared. I've been fighting cancer for 6 months. I can fight him too. Jennifer smiled approvingly. Good. Now there's one more thing we need to discuss. Your childhood savings bonds, the ones your grandparents gave you that your father claimed were lost. My heart sank. Those are long gone, aren't they? He cashed them 20 years ago. He did, Jennifer confirmed. But here's where it gets interesting. Those bonds were in your name, requiring your signature to cash. He forged it, obviously, but the statute of limitations on that forgery doesn't apply because he concealed the crime through ongoing fraud. We can pursue recovery of those funds with interest and penalties. Current value approximately $78,000. The numbers were becoming surreal. Between insurance reimbursements, Grandma's policy, and potential recovery of stolen funds, I'd go from drowning in medical debt to financially secure. But more than the money, it was the validation that hit hardest. Every sacrifice I'd made, every time I'd gone without so Dad could maintain his facade, it had all been built on theft and lies. Tyler's phone buzzed, and his face paled as he read the message. It's Mom. Dad made bail. His friend Bernard put up the money. She's scared he'll come to Aunt Julia's house where she's staying. Jennifer was already reaching for her phone. I'll call the prosecutor immediately. With the new evidence of financial crimes, we can request increased bail or remand. Grace, can you help coordinate a safety plan for Martha? As the room erupted into activity, legal calls and safety planning, I sat quietly in the eye of the storm. My body was weak from chemotherapy, my emotions raw from years of suppression, but my resolve had never been stronger. Dad had built his kingdom on the backs of his family, stealing our resources, our credit, our peace of mind. Now that kingdom was crumbling, and he'd face consequences for every stolen dollar, every forged signature, every lie that had kept us trapped. Margot, Tyler said quietly while Jennifer spoke with the prosecutor, I'm sorry for all of it, for believing his lies about you, for taking that money, for not seeing what he was doing to all of us. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I see it now. I see you now. We were all victims, I replied, meaning it. He made us compete for scraps while he stole the whole meal, but we're not victims anymore. We're survivors, and we're going to make sure he can't do this to anyone else. The next hour was a blur of legal strategy, documentation review, and coordination with law enforcement. By the time we left Jennifer's office, the prosecutor had agreed to request bail revocation based on the new evidence. Mom was safely relocated to a women's shelter with better security than Aunt Julia's house. The insurance company had initiated a full audit of my claims with promises of rapid resolution. As Grace drove me home exhausted from the emotional and physical toll, I reflected on how much had changed in less than a week. The call that had interrupted my chemotherapy session had set off a chain reaction that exposed decades of abuse and crime. But it had also revealed unexpected strength in Mom finally standing up for herself in Tyler, choosing truth over comfort, in my own refusal to sacrifice myself anymore for someone who saw me only as a resource to exploit. You know what's funny? I said to Grace as we pulled up to my apartment. Dad was right about one thing. That insurance money did destroy our family, just not the way he meant. It destroyed the fake family built on lies and abuse. What's left might actually be worth saving. That's not destruction, Grace corrected gently. That's demolition before renovation. You can't build something healthy on a rotten foundation. Sometimes you have to tear it all down and start fresh. She was right. The legal battles ahead would be lengthy and difficult. Dad would use every manipulation tactic in his arsenal. There would be family members who sided with him, friends who questioned my choices. Moments when fighting would feel harder than surrendering. But I had weapons now, truth evidence, legal support, and family members who chose honesty over comfortable lies. Most importantly, I had myself. No longer the invisible daughter sacrificing in silence, but a woman fighting for her life on multiple fronts and winning. The chemotherapy might be poison designed to heal, but so was the truth. Both hurt in the process of curing what was killing me. As I settled in for the night, reviewing documents Jennifer had given me, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, hope backed by action. Dad's reign of financial terror was ending, and from its ashes we'd build something real. 3 months had passed since the confrontation at my apartment, and the world looked different from the chemotherapy chair. My hair was beginning to grow back in soft, downy patches, and Dr. Patel had just delivered the news I'd been desperately hoping to hear: the tumors were shrinking significantly. The treatment was working, aided by the drastic reduction in stress, now that financial terror no longer dominated my every waking moment. "Your progress is remarkable," Dr. Patel said, reviewing my latest scans with visible satisfaction. "The combination of consistent treatment and reduced psychological burden has made a substantial difference. How are you feeling about the legal proceedings?" I adjusted the blanket over my lap, grateful that today's infusion was one of the lighter ones. Dad's trial starts next week. Criminal charges first, then civil proceedings for recovery of stolen assets. It's been intense, but Jennifer has been incredible. What I didn't mention was how the insurance company had not only reimbursed all my previous medical expenses, but had also assigned me a personal advocate to ensure no future claims faced delays. The $47,000 in reimbursements had eliminated my medical debt entirely, while Grandma's insurance money sat safely in investment accounts, growing while I focused on healing. Sarah, my faithful chemotherapy nurse, approached with her usual warm smile. "Your mom's here to see you. Should I send her in?" Mom's visits had become a regular part of my treatment routine. The woman who walked in bore little resemblance to the shadow she'd been 6 months ago. She'd gained healthy weight. Her face had color again, and she moved with a confidence that years of Dad's control had stolen. The divorce proceedings were moving quickly, aided by the criminal charges and documented financial abuse. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, settling into the chair beside me with practiced ease. "Julia drove me today. She's in the waiting room if you'd like to see her later." Aunt Julia had become an unexpected source of support, furious when she learned how Dad had isolated Mom from her family. The web of lies he'd spun had convinced everyone that Mom was complicit in the financial chaos, when really she'd been trapped and gaslit for decades. "How are you doing with everything?" I asked, noticing the legal folder she carried. "Better than I expected. The forensic accountant Jennifer recommended found another 12 accounts your father hid assets in. Can you believe he had a separate identity established in Nevada, complete with driver's license and credit cards? He's been living a double life for years." The revelations had stopped shocking me months ago. Each layer peeled back revealed new depths of deception. Dad hadn't just stolen from us. He'd built an entire alternate existence funded by our suffering. The Nevada identity had been used for gambling trips, affairs, and financial transactions. He couldn't risk being traced back to Robert Williams' respectable family man. Tyler's testifying tomorrow, Mom continued. He's nervous, but determined. Did you know he's been recording your father's admissions for the past 3 years? He has audio of Robert bragging about the schemes, planning new ones, even laughing about how gullible I was. Tyler's transformation had been perhaps the most dramatic. Free from Dad's influence, he'd thrown himself into therapy and honest work. The construction job had turned into a foremanship opportunity after his boss recognized his potential once it wasn't being sabotaged. He'd started paying me back for the old loans, $50 here, $100 there, despite my protests that it wasn't necessary. He doesn't have to testify, I said, though I knew Tyler wouldn't back down. The evidence is overwhelming without it. He wants to. Says it's part of his recovery, taking responsibility and making amends. His therapist has been wonderful, helping him understand how your father's manipulation shaped his entire worldview. We sat quietly for a moment, the steady drip of chemotherapy marking time. These peaceful moments with Mom had become precious conversations that should have happened years ago, finally possible without Dad's interference. I have something to tell you, Mom said, fidgeting with her purse strap. I've been seeing someone. A counselor at the women's shelter introduced us. His name is George, and he's a widower who volunteers there after losing his wife to domestic violence. We're just friends for now, but Margot, he makes me remember who I was before your father. Mom, that's wonderful, I said, genuinely happy for her. You deserve to be treated with kindness and respect. It's strange, she admitted. He asks my opinion about things and actually listens. He remembers what I tell him. Last week, I mentioned liking sunflowers, and he brought me seeds to plant at Julia's house. Such a small thing, but your father never once brought me flowers in 34 years of marriage. The arrival of my social worker friend Grace interrupted our conversation. She'd been coordinating with Adult Protective Services to ensure Mom had all necessary resources during the transition. But today, she looked excited about something else entirely. Sorry to interrupt, but Margot, there's someone here who's been trying to reach you. Says he's from the Teachers Benevolent Fund. I frowned, not recognizing the organization. A man in his 30s entered, carrying a bouquet and looking slightly nervous. Miss Williams, I'm David Chen from the Teachers Benevolent Fund. We heard about your situation through the education community, and I wanted to deliver this personally. He handed me an envelope along with the flowers. Inside was a check for $15,000 and a letter signed by dozens of names I recognized, fellow teachers from across the district. When word spread about your battle with cancer and the family situation, teachers started contributing to a fund. Some gave $20, others more. The district matched donations up to $10,000. It's not a loan or a charity. It's recognition of what you've given to your students over the years. Teachers supporting teachers. I started crying, overwhelmed by the generosity of colleagues I hadn't even realized knew my story. David shifted uncomfortably until Mom assured him these were happy tears. There's also this, he added, producing another envelope. Your students, past and present, created a memory book. Their parents helped with the project. There are over 200 entries. The book was thick with pages of children's drawings, photos, and carefully printed messages. Miss Williams taught me to read when everyone said I couldn't. She never gave up on me. The best teacher in the whole world. Page after page of evidence that while I'd felt invisible at home, I'd been seen and valued in my classroom. Thank you, I managed through tears. This means more than you can possibly know. David smiled. Actually, I think I might understand. You taught my nephew Marcus 3 years ago. He has dyslexia, and you spent extra hours helping him develop coping strategies. He's thriving now, loves reading, wants to be a teacher himself. You changed his life, Miss Williams. This is just the community saying thank you. After he left, I sat surrounded by love in tangible form. Flowers checks children's artwork while poison dripped into my veins to save my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad had accused me of selfishness while I'd spent years pouring into others' children what I'd never received myself. Look, Grace said, scrolling through her phone. The local news picked up your story. Teacher battles cancer while exposing family financial fraud. They're calling you a hero for standing up to financial abuse. I wasn't comfortable with the hero label, but Jennifer had advised that public attention could help other victims recognize their own situations. Sure enough, her office had been flooded with calls from people experiencing similar financial abuse from family members finally seeing that it wasn't normal or acceptable. Tyler arrived as my infusion finished looking professional in his work clothes and carrying a manila envelope. "Hey sis, Mom, Grace. I have something for you, Margot." He handed me the envelope with visible nervousness. Inside were official-looking documents that took me a moment to understand. I liquidated my motorcycle, the one good thing Dad actually bought me. Sold some tools, picked up extra shifts. It's not much, but it's the first installment of what I owe you. $10,000. Clean money earned honestly. "Tyler, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do," he interrupted firmly, "not because of the money itself, but because I need to be different than him. I need to prove to myself that I can build instead of destroy, give instead of take. Please, let me do this." I accepted the check, understanding it represented far more than money. It was Tyler's declaration of independence from the patterns Dad had established, his commitment to becoming the man he wanted to be rather than the one Dad had shaped. The conversation turned to lighter topics, Mom sharing stories about her art classes, Tyler discussing his promotion opportunities, Grace updating us on mutual friends. For the first time in memory, we felt like an actual family, small and wounded but genuine. As they prepared to leave, Mom pulled out a small wrapped box. "I've been saving this for when you got good news from Dr. Patel. It's not much, but I wanted you to have something that was truly yours." Inside was a delicate silver necklace with a small compass pendant. "It was my grandmother's," Mom explained. "I hid it from your father all these years. The compass is to remind you that you always knew your true direction, even when others tried to make you lose your way." I put it on immediately, the weight of it comforting against my chest. 3 months ago, I'd been drowning in debt, cancer, and family dysfunction. Now, surrounded by genuine care, financial security, and hope for the future, I felt like I was finally surfacing. The trial would start next week. Dad would face justice for his crimes. The divorce would be finalized. Assets would be recovered and redistributed fairly. But sitting in that chemotherapy chair wearing my grandmother's compass, holding my student's memory book, I realized justice had already begun. It lived in Mom's newfound freedom, Tyler's honest work, my ability to fight cancer without financial fear. It bloomed in the recognition from my teaching community, the support of chosen family like Grace, the possibility of a future I could shape myself. Dad had been right that Grandma's insurance money would destroy his version of our family, but he'd been wrong about me ending up alone. I was surrounded by more genuine love and support than his transactional worldview could ever comprehend. Each person here had chosen to show up without obligation or manipulation simply because they cared. That was the real victory, worth more than any financial settlement. The money had freed us, but choosing each other had healed us. As we left the cancer center together, a small but mighty group, I touched the compass at my throat and smiled. True north had always been there, waiting for me to stop letting others spin me in circles. Now, finally, I was heading in the right direction. 1 year. That's how long it had been since Dad's phone call interrupted my chemotherapy session with demands for money I didn't have. I stood before the mirror in my bedroom, adjusting the silk scarf around my neck, not to hide a chemotherapy port this time, but as a fashion choice. My hair had grown back different than before, softer and curlier with surprising streaks of silver that I'd decided to embrace rather than dye. They felt earned badges of honor from a war I'd won on multiple fronts. You look beautiful, David Chen said from the doorway holding 2 cups of coffee. Yes, the same David who delivered the teaching fund check had become so much more over the months. What started as checking in on a teacher in need had evolved into friendship, then tentative dating as my health improved, and now something deeper and more stable than I'd ever thought possible. Nervous? He asked, handing me the coffee prepared exactly how I liked it, a small gesture that still made my heart flutter after years of being unseen. A little, I admitted. Speaking publicly about everything, it's different from court testimony. This is choosing to be vulnerable. Today marked the first annual fundraiser for the Compass Foundation, the nonprofit I'd established with part of Grandma's insurance money. Our mission was supporting cancer patients experiencing financial abuse, providing both monetary assistance and legal resources. Jennifer Walsh served on our board offering pro bono consultation to families navigating similar situations to mine. The Riverside Medical Center had offered their auditorium for the event, recognizing how many of their patients faced financial exploitation during vulnerable times. Dr. Patel would introduce me having become not just my oncologist, but a fierce advocate for addressing the intersection of health and financial abuse. My phone buzzed with a message from Tyler. Already here setting up chairs. Mom's arranging the flowers. You've got this, sis. Tyler's transformation continued to amaze me. He'd not only maintained steady employment, but had started taking night classes in construction management. Last month, he'd made the final payment on what he felt he owed me every cent earned through honest work. I'd tried to refuse it, but he'd insisted saying integrity couldn't be partial. The drive to the hospital felt surreal. These roads that had once led to fear and uncertainty now carried me toward purpose. David reached over to squeeze my hand at a red light, understanding without words that I needed to process this moment. The auditorium was already filling when we arrived. I saw familiar faces from my teaching community medical staff who'd witnessed my journey, and strangers who'd heard about the foundation through media coverage. Mom stood near the entrance, greeting people elegant in a dress she'd bought with her own money from her new job at an art supply store. The divorce had been finalized 6 months ago, leaving her with the house and half of the revealed assets, though Dad's criminal restitution would take years to fully materialize. 5 minutes. Grace announced, appearing with her usual organized energy. She'd taken leave from the hospital to serve as the foundation's first director, bringing her social work expertise to bear on creating comprehensive support systems. I made my way backstage, passing the display boards showing the foundation's first-year achievements. 43 families assisted 12 successful legal interventions, 3 legislative proposals for stronger financial abuse protections. Each number represented real people escaping situations like mine. Dr. Patel took the stage first, her introduction both medical and personal. When Margot Williams first came to me, she was fighting 2 cancers, one in her body and one in her family structure. I'm proud to say that as of last month, she's officially in remission from both. The applause washed over me as I walked on stage carrying note cards I probably wouldn't need. The story had become part of me now, carved into my bones alongside survival. Well, good evening, I began, my teacher's voice carrying clearly. My name is Margot Williams and I'm a survivor, not just of cancer, though that journey taught me strength I didn't know I possessed. I survived something often harder to diagnose and treat: family financial abuse. I told the story without euphemism or protection for those who'd harmed me. Dad's name wasn't mentioned. That was a grace I offered myself, not him, but the pattern of abuse was laid bare. I spoke of Mom's secret deposits, Tyler's awakening, Grandma's protection from beyond the grave. I shared the numbers: 267,000 in stolen funds, eventually documented, 15 years of tax fraud exposed 4 family members, financially devastated by one man's greed. But I'm not here to talk about victimhood. I continued, finding David's eyes in the crowd. I'm here to talk about what happens when we choose ourselves, when we stop setting ourselves on fire to keep others warm, when we recognize that love shouldn't come with a price tag. I shared the establishment of the foundation, how the insurance money Grandma left had become seed funding for change, how Tyler's journey from enabler to advocate showed that transformation was possible at any age, how Mom's courage in leaving after 3 decades proved it's never too late to choose freedom. Financial abuse thrives in silence and shame, I said nearing the end. It convinces victims that family loyalty means accepting theft, that love requires turning over your social security number, your credit, your savings, your future. But that's not love. That's exploitation wearing a family mask. The crowd was silent, absorbing truths that made many uncomfortable. I saw people crying, others nodding in recognition, some reaching for phones to perhaps make their own difficult calls. If you're sitting here recognizing your own story and mine, know this: you deserve better. Your illness, your success, your mere existence as a family member doesn't obligate you to fund someone else's life. The Compass Foundation is here to help you find your true north, just as I found mine. I concluded with the lesson that had taken 33 years to learn. Sometimes the greatest act of self-love is refusing to sacrifice yourself for those who never valued your life. True family isn't about blood, but about who stands by you when you're fighting to survive. When you choose yourself, you give others permission to break free from their chains too. The standing ovation felt different from applause, more like collective recognition and release. As I left the stage, people approached with their own stories, whispered confessions of mothers draining accounts, siblings demanding medical settlement money, fathers who stole identities. Each story strengthened my resolve that this foundation would be Grandma's true legacy protection, multiplied beyond what she could have imagined. The reception afterwards buzzed with energy and purpose. Local lawyers offered pro bono hours. Therapists volunteered services. Financial advisors proposed educational seminars. Tyler worked the room with surprising social grace, sharing his perspective as someone who'd been both victim and unwitting accomplice. I'm proud of you, Mom said, finding me during a quiet moment. Not just for surviving, but for turning pain into purpose. Your grandmother would be so pleased to see her gift multiplied this way. She was right. Grandma's $250,000 had become so much more. It had funded not just my healing, but a movement. The foundation's endowment was growing through donations, ensuring sustainability beyond my initial investment. Corporate sponsors had emerged, tech companies interested in our financial abuse detection app, healthcare systems wanting our training programs. Miss Williams, a young woman, approached hesitantly. I'm Sarah Martinez. You taught my daughter Emma 5 years ago. She's here tonight, wants to tell you something. Emma, now 13, stepped forward with the awkward grace of early adolescence. Hi, Miss Williams. You probably don't remember me, but you taught me to read when everyone else gave up. I have dyslexia, like your nephew Marcus. I wanted to tell you that I won the district spelling bee this year, and I'm going to be a teacher just like you. If I'd needed a reminder of why visibility mattered, Emma provided it. We'd gone full circle from that chemotherapy chair where I'd felt invisible to standing here seen and celebrated for all the quiet ways I'd mattered. As the evening wound down, David helped pack up displays while Grace tallied donation pledges that exceeded our wildest expectations. Tyler and Mom headed out together for their new tradition of weekly dinners, rebuilding their relationship without Dad's toxic influence. What a 1 year, David mused as we loaded the last box into his car. Do you ever think about where you'd be if that phone call hadn't happened? I considered it. Without that catalyst, would I have kept hiding my cancer? Continued enabling the family dysfunction. Died quietly, without ever claiming Grandma's gift or my own worth. I try not to. I answered honestly. That call was horrible, but it broke the pattern. Sometimes the worst moments create space for the best transformations. We drove home through streets that had witnessed my journey from invisible daughter to visible advocate. Home itself had changed, no longer a small condo bearing the weight of a second mortgage, but a modest house purchased outright with recovered funds. A house with a garden where mom's sunflowers grew, where Tyler had built a deck with his own hands, where David and I planned a future based on mutual respect rather than obligation. Before bed, I performed my nightly ritual, checking the foundation's email for new requests for help. Each message reminded me why this work mattered. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: a meeting with legislators about financial abuse laws, a strategy session for expanding services, a follow-up appointment with Dr. Patel to confirm my continued remission. But tonight, I simply felt grateful. Dad was serving 5 years in federal prison. His kingdom of lies collapsed. The family he'd sworn I'd lose had actually been found refined by fire into something genuine. The money he'd killed relationships to steal had become seeds of healing for countless others. The cancer that should have killed me had instead revealed what I was truly made of. I touched the compass necklace at my throat, Grandma's true gift, beyond any insurance policy. She'd known I'd need direction when the fog of abuse finally cleared. Now I helped others find theirs, one survivor at a time. Thank you, I whispered to her, memory to the universe, to everyone who'd chosen to see me when I'd felt invisible. Tomorrow would bring new battles, but tonight, victory was enough. The responsible daughter had become something more: a warrior, a teacher, a survivor, a beacon. And that transformation, more than any amount of money, was the real inheritance worth claiming. If you or someone you know has experienced family financial abuse during a medical crisis, you're not alone. Resources exist, from legal aid to support groups to foundations like the fictional one in this story. Your illness is not an opportunity for others' gain. Your vulnerability doesn't diminish your rights. Your family status doesn't obligate you to fund others' lives at the expense of your own survival. What boundaries have you had to set with family to protect your own well-being? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more narratives of triumph over adversity. And if you know someone who needs to hear that choosing themselves isn't selfish but necessary, please share this story with them. Thank you for joining me on this journey from invisibility to voice, from exploitation to empowerment, from sickness to healing in all its forms. Remember, your compass always points to your true worth, no matter who tries to spin you around. Trust it, follow it, and know that choosing yourself gives others permission to do the same. Until next time, may you find the courage to be seen, the strength to say no, and the wisdom to know that real love never demands your destruction as payment for its presence.